There is a quiet, profound earthquake that occurs in the lives of many women once they cross the 50-year threshold. It isn't marked by a loud event or a single catastrophic rupture. Instead, it is a gradual, often confusing erosion of the social fabric they have spent decades weaving. You might have noticed it. The phone calls grow infrequent, the must-do, lunch dates become easier to cancel, and the vibrant social network that once felt like a safety net begins to look more like a collection of increasingly distant acquaintances. Most women blame themselves. They internalize this drift as a personal failure, a sign that they have become less interesting, less relevant, or simply harder to connect with as they age. They fear they are becoming invisible. But if we peel back the curtain on the behavioral psychology of midlife, we find that this is not a personal failure at all. It is a biological and evolutionary realignment of the human nervous system. The illusion of convenience connectivity. For the first 4 decades of life, our social circles are largely dictated by proximity and institutional utility. We form friendships based on the functional co-location of our lives: school drop-off lines, office break rooms, neighborhood associations, and shared parenting schedules. These are convenience connections. They provide the necessary support to survive the chaotic, high-demand years of early career development and child rearing. Your brain, ever the efficiency machine, classifies these people as essential survival assets because they help you navigate your current environment. But as you cross the 50-year mark, the institutions that anchored those friendships, the kids leave home, the career shifts, the geographic relocations, begin to dissolve. When the functional utility of the relationship vanishes, the relationship itself often enters a state of collapse. You aren't losing friends because you are losing your charm. You are losing them because the scaffolding that held those specific relationships together has been dismantled. The biological reckoning. The need for co-regulation. What happens inside the body during this transition is where the real investigation begins. Around menopause, the hormonal landscape shifts dramatically. Specifically, the oxytocin system, our primary biological driver for bonding and trust, becomes more discerning. In your 30s, your nervous system was largely tuned to transactional bonding, people who helped you get things done. In your 50s, your nervous system begins to crave co-regulatory bonding. Co-regulation is a physiological state where 2 nervous systems influence each other to achieve calm. When you are with someone who truly gets you, your heart rate variability sinks, your cortisol levels drop, and your brain enters a state of safety. For a woman navigating the internal volatility of midlife, this isn't a luxury. It is a physiological necessity for emotional homeostasis. Many women find themselves unintentionally weeding their social gardens because their nervous systems are essentially acting as bouncers. If a friend was a great transactional partner, someone you could vent to about work or parenting, but they lack the capacity for deep emotional attunement, your brain will start to categorize them as energy expensive rather than energy giving. You stop reaching out not because you are lazy, but because your body is no longer willing to pay the metabolic cost of a surface-level connection. The tend and befriend survival strategy. We have long been fed the narrative of fight or flight, which suggests that under stress we should either attack or isolate. But researchers have identified a distinct female stress response: tend and befriend. This is an ancient, hardwired mechanism designed to maximize survival by creating deep, protective social bonds. At 50, this mechanism is still fully active, but it has become highly selective. This is an evolutionary masterclass in resource management. When your internal resources are being redirected toward navigating physical and identity transitions, you cannot afford to waste your tend and befriend energy on people who drain your system. This leads to what psychologists call the attachment-based friendship shift. You move from a quantity-based social model to a quality-based one. The shrinking circle is not a sign of atrophy. It is a sign of intense subconscious precision. You are moving away from the village that was built for convenience and toward a sanctuary built for resonance. The fear of the void versus the freedom of clarity. Why does this feel so painful? Because we have been conditioned to view our value through the lens of our social connectivity. To have fewer people in your orbit is often culturally coded as lonely, sad, or isolated. However, if we look behind the curtain, we see that the pain of this shift is actually a growing pain. The void you feel is the space created by the removal of relationships that were never truly meant to survive the transition into your second act. It is the emotional equivalent of decluttering a house. Yes, the room looks empty for a while, but it is finally ready for the right pieces to be placed within it. The challenge is that society doesn't provide a script for this. We are taught how to make friends in kindergarten and how to network in our 20s, but we are given no instructions on how to curate a nervous system-aligned community in our 50s. Tricking the brain into new connection. How do you navigate this without slipping into a cycle of isolation? 1. Stop mourning the convenience friends. Accept that those relationships served a season. Mourning them is like mourning a school desk. It was useful for that specific time, but you don't need it in your office today. 2. Audit for attunement. When you interact with someone, pay attention to your body afterward. Do you feel drained and scattered? That is a transactional connection. Do you feel centered, understood, and regulated? That is a co-regulatory connection. Prioritize the latter. 3. Lean into intellectual resonance. At this stage, human connection often happens best through shared meaning rather than shared geography. Join groups where the focus is on the why: philosophy, art, complex projects, or deep dive discussions. The people you meet here are likely searching for the same level of resonance you are. Ultimately, your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is protecting you by ensuring that the people you keep in your inner circle are those who help you keep your engine running. You aren't losing your ability to connect. You are outgrowing the outdated software of your youth. The loneliness you might feel is just the temporary discomfort of your nervous system preparing for a much deeper, more authentic way of being in the world. You are not becoming disconnected. You are becoming selective. And in a world that thrives on the superficial, that is perhaps the most powerful survival skill you can cultivate.